All right, and share. I'll get it right. I've only got one more turn after this. And then my year's done. All right, everyone, welcome to this week's course, Rental Appraisal Report for Residential Property. Okay, so carrying, am I right at the back at the beginning? Yeah. Carry out an inspection on a prospective rental property. How's that, eh? Do you like these plants growing out of the coins? I thought it was quite good. The usual process in estimating likely cost and assessing rental value for prospective properties is to carry out an inspection of the prospective property. I know some that don't do that. They just look at their real estate adverts, but still, you should be, the best practice is to go and visit the property. Assess the state of the current rental market by analysing data on the rental value of existing rental properties in a similar location with similar features and condition. And access the differences between the prospective rental property and the similar properties analysed and adjust the rental value to take account of these differences and assess the rental market value of the property being assessed. All right, so when we talk about inspecting the condition of a rental property, we mean how good or bad it is. I just went and saw a house today and it had somebody, the original owner, who was taken into a home, and they must have been incontinent, and it was quite an interesting house to see all the carpets stained and everything. So that would not be a rentable condition. When estimating the likely rents and cost of revenue of prospective rental property, you carry out a property condition inspection to observe and record what you've seen. So have all you guys got those appraisal sheets, worksheets and everything? No?
No.
No, you don't. You don't have a appraisal sheet, worksheet when you go to properties?
No.
Oh. It's always good to
fill
have
out a
a
management
form where you fill in the bedrooms, the bathrooms, how many, and then of course you, then you, as they'll explain shortly in the course, you'll also look for any things that might have to be done to either increase the value, suggestions, or mandatory stuff that's got to be done to record in the appraisal, so that you're giving the people an idea of what they need to do.
I put it on the PMA, so you don't have to redo it.
Oh, okay.
On an iPad.
Okay, very good. All right, so
is there an example in this? Maybe it's one of the.
There's an example of a report, but there's not an example. Oh, to be honest, there is. What they do is they show you the ingoing condition report for tenancy services management agreement, which is useless. I might just see if I can just see if I can find one for you, which I use. I find them really, really helpful.
If you've got one you can share, that'd be great.
How much you willing to pay? No. It's all good. Oh, where is it? Okay. If I picked the right folder, that would help, wouldn't it? Right. This is property, support documents, appraisal worksheet. All right, so this is what I use. And you might have something similar now. I've shown it to you. Basically, is the access authorized? That's usually if the owner, if that's tenanted out with by another company. Owner details and contact information. I usually write up the top here. The address. I have this to remind me to take a photo so that I actually have it on the appraisal report. Type of dwelling, the number of levels, and then you just go around and take notes, number of bathrooms, bedrooms, kitchen. You know, I scribble everywhere because, again, it's not a big deal. that is what I do when I view the property. So I actually go through and take all those notes. Then when I get back, I get on Mr. Google and I find out where the transport is, the schooling is, and the shops. And then I actually have a look at comparable properties that are available. And if they're short supply, I have a look at comparable properties currently listed or recently listed. And then that helps me come up with a recommended range.
Mm.
And in our appraisals, if there's sufficient properties comparable on Trade Me or whatever source that you can actually put in there, I even put on the days in the market. That's so you don't get these situations where there's a property for $1,100, but it's been on the market for 4 months. You know, it's but yeah, the other thing is that and we'll talk about it as we go through the course. And other things that you can do is that you can go online and have a look at tenancy services, market rent, which will be here in suburbs. So we'll have a play with that.
Yeah. Oh, how many bonds have been lodged in that area?
Yeah, so it's actually I used to hesitate with it because it used to be so out of date and the rent figures were so much lower. But the feedback I've had and what I've noticed recently is it's actually not so bad. You know?
It's not too bad. It's just one of the factors that I guess we take into consideration, but it's not the factor.
No. But again, it depends on what the property situation is like. I in Hawke's Bay here, we haven't got hardly anything available for rent. I think Wellington and Auckland, it's easier now, but are you finding you got plenty of comparable properties to look up?
Yeah.
Where are
Depends
you?
where.
Where are you, Heidi?
Hamilton.
Oh, okay, cool.
I'm doing one on a property in Whitianga tomorrow. There's not very many comparable properties in Whitianga.
Yeah, so again, it's something that's worth considering is having a look at that that site. So maybe we'll try that with Whitianga when we do the example. So when we do the initial inspection, having a look, check that the property meets your company and local authority standards. Yes, I have trouble with that. Never mind. Sorry, I won't start. Check legislations align. So check to the property landlord's responsibilities under the RTA, the Building Act, the Healthy Home Standards, the smoke alarm and insulation. And guess what? We'll be talking about those tonight. Gather data used to the market. We'll talk about that. And then determine the value. So how you determine the value. Your company will most probably have a property condition checklist or a maintenance checklist, but from what I can understand, maybe you don't. This checklist is a report that provides a list of what you need to check. So, you know, I make sure that I always check the smoke alarms and pace out whether they're 3 meters. If it's a multi-story, whether there's one on each story. I also talk to them about right up front about the healthy homes. There's some people who, if it doesn't comply, if it's clearly doesn't comply, they need to actually find out whether they're willing to pay them the price to get it fixed. All that sort of thing. So again, these are the things you can look at. I've been lately strongly recommended that they get a healthy homes people to come and do a report early on. They seem to be quite willing to do it. Oh, here we are. Here's a property inspection fillable report.
Yeah, I was going to say, I that's what I kind of use.
This one here.
Well, not that one, but
No.
you know, like a property condition report or a property listing report, and then I've already got the information, you know, already.
They did used to come up with quite a good report in a couple of versions ago, but this one is just a joke because at the end of the day, it's here they do talk about smoke alarms, but that's all they talk about. So again, this is more a ingoing or a condition report. So it's not really that good. How does the property look, smell, and feel? It sounds a bit silly, but in fact, if you've got properties that are damp or mold, you do smell it. So again, that's a warning, especially if there's been addition that's been put on and it smells. It starts to get worries you. So here we go. I haven't seen any information yet, but they're going to do a tricky one. It says the landlord who fails to comply with the requirements of the residential tenancies, that smoke alarms and insulation regulation, is committing an unlawful act and may be liable for a penalty of up to how much? Anyone want to have a crack at it?
I think it's quite a lot. I think it might.
Eight,
Yeah,
because
I
I
think
thought it
it's
was
the
about
8,000.
7,200.
Well, it could be, but the thing that really concerns me is that you have a look at the list of unlawful acts, and the failing to meet obligations under cleanliness, maintenance, smoke alarms, and healthy home standards is 7,200. So then I thought, well, hang on, that's not right. 8,000. Where do they get it from? So I thought I went into the residential tenancy smoke and insulation regulations, and I've been through all the parts with the smoke alarms, the clauses. Whoops. Part 1, and I can't see any figure. So my guess is, again, in their brilliance, that they might have actually picked a figure that before they were increased since 2016.
Which would have been 4,000, I think, was it?
Well, I don't know. So we'll just have a guess.
They might have rounded up.
Yeah.
It's not very professional in a course, is it, to round it up
No.
from 7,200? You see, I was right. So they're using old information. So
This is not the first time either. I've picked that up in a few of them. It's just.
So again, it's just, this is just basic stuff, but don't
So
worry.
is someone going back to them and telling them that?
Yeah, well, we are. I think we're preparing a list for them, but it's particularly bad this time. The rest of the time, they used to get everybody together from different companies and actually go through the course. And we actually got it quite good, but whatever's happened this last time, as I said, I think they've actually rushed ahead and done it, thinking that the regulation of property managers was going to take place.
Shouldn't there be a discount or something for all these things that have actually, it's just not.
Yeah, I just want you guys to pass, really, so that it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, as long as you can say
Compensation. We want compensation. Like, I don't hear that in word
Oh, I can
enough.
see that you're going to be a good unionist. Yep.
I guess the lesson from this is, make sure you check the legislation. Don't just assume because it's in the course that's right.
But again, if it's in the course as 4,000, then make that your answer if it comes up in your assignment.
Yeah.
But you know better.
Yeah.
Right. Now we're going to talk about your right of entry to a tenanted property. And the right of entry is about a person's right to go onto the property. In case of a tenanted property, the landlord has rights of entry onto the tenanted property, blah, blah, blah. So the rules for a landlord's right of entry under section 48, you should all know it by now. Well, oh, here's the, it's how many hours notice?
48,
All
no
right.
more than 14.
Okay, great. And what are the times of entry that they deem to be reasonable times of entry?
8 to 7.
All right, I'll see if you're right. I know I'm pretty sure you are. Right, let's moving along. Maintenance requirements for prospective rental properties. You need to be clearly advise the landlord of the property which repairs are essential, as well as upgrades legally required for the property to be tenanted, and which repairs are not essential but would improve the likely return. Now, you might go into a property and it looks really quite tidy, but the actual lounge carpet's got red stains all over it. That would be something that I personally, as an example, would say to them, look, it's better to, I would suggest you put the carpet down. It's not a bedroom, it's actually in the main area. They're going to bring friends around and be embarrassed by these stains. That's something that I would suggest that you do to get a better rental. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Or there's something you go in there and, a couple of the cupboard drawers have broken, the fronts have broken off them. Well, again, to me, that's not a recommended thing. That would be something they need to get done. So your inspection of the property will need to be noted all known repairs required for the property to be able to meet the legislative and council requirements, and other maintenance that could be undertaken to increase the likely rental return. And again, smoke alarms, insulation, healthy home standards are legal requirements. So again, I usually just check all those things. It's important to add a disclaimer to the estimated costs given for any maintenance work if you're suggesting the cost. If you do that. Right, identifying key features for the prospective rental property. When you inspect the property, you'll need to note the key features of the property, and this will help you assess the rental value. So what are some of the key features? Well, you all in your areas will have good suburbs and bad suburbs. You'll know them offhand. So that's a key thing. The property type, the age of the property, the construction, number of bedrooms is a big one, number of bathrooms is a big one, number of living areas, garaging, accessibility, fencing, swimming pool, views, school zone, furnishings, decor, proper, blah, blah, blah. Your company will most probably have a checklist or form for recording key features. Well, I've just shown you my one. Meeting legislation. Here we are, meeting legislation related to residential property. So here we go through all the legislation again. So you'll be really good at this now. There's the tenancy's healthy home standards. How many standards are there?
5. No,
5.
Go to the back of the classroom.
Oh, 6 is there? No, there's
6,
5.
yeah. 6.
Isn't
the other one
drainage,
hasn't come out. Oh,
drainage and moisture ingress, isn't that counted as 1?
There's drafts.
Insulation.
Like there's the draft one where you've got to actually check to see if there's got an open fireplace or whether the there's any gaps in the place in the windows. Yeah, I'll tell you what. Here we go. So the healthy home standards, what landlords need to know.
Heating.
Where are we? So there's the heating, insulation, ventilation, moisture ingress and drainage, draft stopping.
That's 5.
And hang on, there's always been 6.
You know, there's 5. Moisture ingress and drainage, maybe, because
they're grouped
I
together.
always have 6 on my reports that I get.
No, I'm sure. Wow. Because it
Heating, insulation, ventilation, moisture, drafts. Oh,
heating,
I'm so sorry.
Ventilation.
They must have split them on my on the reports I get.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, because moisture ingress and drainage sometimes are split out, and I think that's
All right.
where.
So let it go on record that David Pearce was wrong.
Okay, Susie, you and I back to the front of the classroom.
Oh, sack him, please. Oh.
Did you write the course?
Oh, right. So then there's the landlord's responsibilities as outlined in Section 45 of the Residential Tenancies Act. I should have actually looked at that as healthy home standards again. So when it comes to insulation, timeframes, healthy home standards, compliance timeframes. Open. All right, so you'll see there's some time frames. The insulation with the first ones, ceiling and underfloor, which came in July 2019. Then we had everything having to be done from July the 1st to 24, but then it was changed to the 1st of July 2025 because of the COVID. All right, now you remembered those dates. Good. So the question is, as part of the Healthy Home Standards, ceiling and underfloor insulation have been compulsory in all rental homes since what date?
2019.
Do you think? Let's have a look. Correct. What a great class. All right, fire safety and evacuation building regulations. Prospective rental property should always be checked for compliance with the fire regulations, and before a flat or apartment or a building is tenanted, the following needs to be checked: whether the building is covered by these regulations. So the relevant building defined for purposes of gathering together of more than 100 people, employment facilities of 10 persons or more, or providing accommodation for more than 5 persons other than in 3 or fewer household units. So it sounds as if this regulation is more for more boarding houses or childcare facilities or things like that, or providing accommodation for people under lawful detention. So the reason I raise that is that they then go on to a question down here. Fire safety regulations. If a premises of the mission classified as a building under the Section 21A of the Fire Service Act, he would like to take a guess.
Is a premises in the mission classified as?
Premises of the mission. I'm going to guess yes.
That's a guess. See if you're right. No,
Oh.
no. There we are.
Ah.
But yeah. So
What
make
is
sure
what is the premises of the mission? What is
Oh,
what is
yeah,
it?
I was afraid you're going to ask me that.
Yeah, never heard of that before.
Where is it? Is this it? The owner of a building must have a procedure in place, evacuation procedure for safe and proper efficient building of a building's occupants in the event of fire.
So like an apartment building as well.
Well, see, this is it. This is where, again, they're getting legislation for things like boarding houses and others, and they actually bring it into the course.
What is mission like? Premises of the. I've never heard of that before. I don't.
No, well, the fact is I haven't either, and it's never been in the previous courses. So again, that's just another thing to add to my list. Right, you've heard of the Building Act 2004, which the owner is responsible for. The Building Act 2004 may be relevant to prospective rental properties that are apartments or flats within a building. So let's have a look at section 1116B. It's an offence to use a building for use which is not safe or not sanitary or has an adequate means of fire escape. Right. So, oops, I should have actually had a look for the fines.
10,000.
Thank you. Good eyes.
Oh, hang on, not exceeding. Yeah, 10,000.
Oh, I'll go back.
Yeah, better. Sorry,
It's
not
100,000
exceeding
and a
100,000.
further fine not exceeding 10,000 for every day or part of day during the offence has been continued.
10 years.
So, yeah. So let's click
100,000.
100,000, see if we're correct, shall we? Oh, we are. Right. Building Pools Amendment Act 2016. If there is a swimming pool on a residential property, then landlords must ensure that it is fenced in accordance with the Fencing of Swimming Pools Act 1987. If the fencing is not compliant, this will need to be fixed before the property can be tenanted. So, outlines the requirements. Let's move on. Local authority bylaws. Bylaws are rules made by local councils which affect the way we live. Bylaws are reviewed every 5 to 10 years. And now they want you to go into the different bylaws, an example of the Auckland's bylaw. And isn't it wonderful when it talks about bylaws, appendixes, structures, processes, you know, again, where's the, oh, sorry, I'm not going to waste your time with it. I just get so frustrated because it's not, as long as you've got a management agreement, you've got it clearly stated that the owner says that it's got all the consents it's need, then your back is covered. So, and other council requirements under the 2004, here's Wellington's Wellington City Council's policies. Buildings are considered dangerous or likely to cause injury, death, or damage to other properties. They're considered to be unsanitary if they have insufficient. Buildings must have sufficient protection against moisture. If they have an inadequate supply of drinking water, that's really a council issue. Dangerous hazards. Buildings must not cause injury into a person's health, and inadequate sanitary facilities. Buildings must have adequate toileting and washing facilities. Termination where premises are unlawful. Residential premises is outlined in Section 56A of the Residential Tenancies Act. And it'll be termination, unlawful residential properties. It says here that the tenant of premises that the start of the tenancy will remain unlawful may terminate with 2 days. And where's the owners? The owners are five days, I think. Anyway, that's all you need to know, because we go on to the question. It says, according to Section 56A, renting a property is deemed unlawful. How much notice must they give the tenant to terminate the tenancy to the landlord? Do you remember how much it was?
24 hours? Can't quite remember. 24 hours?
Sorry, I'll read it again.
We went through it quite quickly.
Oh, sorry, I'll speak slow.
I'm just joking. 2 days.
Oh, so you think it might be 2 days?
Yeah.
Well, I think
Hey!
they said it might be 3 days and they just put 2 there, so we're just rounding up.
Do we have to take it into account also the delivery of the document to them? Do we add another 2 days by email? No. The building code gives guidance on how the building and its components must perform and how it must be designed. You see, I'm sorry, I'm struggling. This is sort of like, yeah, for residential property managers, I think they've gone through a deep dive here. They go into the building regulations and building code. There's no special provisions for rental homes. So rental homes must meet the normal requirements for residential properties. That's structural, moisture. That's outside your pay grade. Responsibility for checking compliances and requirements of the building code rests primarily with local authorities, councils. And do you want to see a video on how to build it right?
Yes.
Sure.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay, good on you. 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Great.
Work done on our home. A lot of building work needs licensed people on the job, right?
Yes, you're right. You may need a licensed building practitioner if the work you're planning affects the basic structure of your home
Who?
or the weather.
The licensed building practitioner.
Mm.
Tells you when you need a licensed building practitioner or LBP, and what is an LBP, what they do, how to find them, and why they're important for homes that are safe, healthy, and built to last. Okay, let's start with when you need to use a licensed building practitioner. Generally, you'll need an LBP for the bigger or more complicated jobs, usually the ones that need a building consent from your council. This includes work affecting your home's primary structure or weather tightness. This could be foundations, framing, roofing, cladding, or more. If your work includes any of these, it could be restricted building work, meaning you must get LBPs to either carry out or supervise the work, because by law, only an LBP is licensed to do it. This work is critical to the warmth, safety, value, and insurability of your home. In fact, it's so important to use the right people. You could face fines of up to $20,000 if you use someone who's not an LBP to do or supervise this work. So, what is a licensed building practitioner? LBPs are assessed before getting licensed and have to maintain their skills and knowledge to keep their license. They include designers, carpenters and builders, roofers, brick and block layers, external plasterers, and foundation specialists. You can check if the people you have are LBPs by asking to see their LBP ID card, which looks like this. And visit our website, building.govt.nz/LBP to find out more and see if they're on the LBP register. Remember, it's your responsibility to ensure you use LBPs when you need to. Bottom line, your home is one of your biggest investments, so you always want to make sure you have the right people on every job, right? Build it right. Go to building.govt.nz/LBP and 1. Understand if you need an LBP. 2. If you do, check they're on the register. 3. Ask to see their LBP ID card.
Excellent.
Right. So again, when you have that explained to you, is it something that you think a property manager would be doing?
No.
Roofing, and maybe if it's a roof replacement, if you're actually wanting to project manage that for the owner? Just decking is probably one that is more important. But anyway, here's a hard one. What does LBP stand for?
Licensed building practitioner.
Oh, gee, you're good. Right. We get to market rent. Market rent is controlled by supply and demand. That's interesting, isn't it? Because you have the Property Investors Association saying it's when the costs go up, they have to put their rent up. But no, it's actually supply and demand, and is determined by a process of market analysis. This involves analysing the rental value of rental properties that are as familiar as possible to the subject property. All right, so rental value, let's have a look at all the different things that here we've got. Presentation, access the condition of the property, location, and research the current market value market. This may use REINZ, tenancy services data, or local company data. It's also, to be honest, a lot of people use Trade Me to see comparable properties on the market, compare similar properties. Yep. And assess the key features of the property, such as garaging, number of bedrooms, and school zone. And we go back to square one again. So market rent is defined in section 25 of the Residential Tenancies Act is on an application made at any time by the tenant, the tenancy tribunal may, in accordance with the succeeding provisions of the section, on being satisfied that the rent payable or to become payable for the tenancy exceeds the market rent by a substantial amount, making an order reducing the rent to an amount to be specified in the order. So that doesn't really explain what market rent is, but it's going to be one of the questions on market rent. And it's interesting because the reality is that the tenancy tribunal should operate on a hierarchy of evidence. Now, a tenant will come in and they'll use the tenancy services market rent, or they might have adverts on Trade Me of similar properties. But the fact is, a higher level of evidence is the appraisal done by a residential property manager. The only way you can gazump that is by getting a registered valuer, and registered valuers can cost up to $500 at least. So again, most of the time, if a tenant thinks that the rent is outrageous and they can get cheaper properties, they leave and go somewhere else. There have been cases I know of personally where the tenant has complained about the rent or the rent increase. they've gone to tenancy services, and tenancy services just look up the market rent on their website, and if it falls within the range, they just say to the tenant, well, sorry, it fits within the range.
Mm.
So it's really hard for a tenant, despite what they say here. So according to the section 25, can a tenant dispute, along with the aid of the tenancy tribunal, the market value, rental value of a property?
Yes, but only if it's substantially above.
Perfect. So we're going to go and have a look at the tenancy services website. Now, where was that property that you were looking up?
Whitianga. They do actually have data for it.
Oops. Was Whitianga?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it just gives you an example of how it works. No, nothing found. Oh, here we
Yeah.
go. So,
Gonna say.
what is it? A 4-bedroom, 3-bedroom?
3-bedroom.
So there's 192 active bonds, and it ranges a low quartile of 550, which is low, medium rent 575, or upper quartile 650. So you're probably looking at about 650 as a guide here.
Maybe not. Currently, it's got an airplane parked in the garage.
Does it come with the tenancy, or how does that work?
It's got an airplane parked in the garage.
Yeah. Yeah, the owners are living there at the moment, but they're going overseas. So it might be a little bit.
Reduce the value, wouldn't it? Put it up.
What's that?
Does the airplane go with it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For tenant use.
But that just gives you an idea of it's quite useful data if you have to rely on it. So, all right, using statistics to assess market value. There's the tenancy services data, which I've just shown you. There's REINZ data available on the REINZ website. And there's other sources of statistical data from your own real estate company's rental portfolio. And there's other stuff here like the education review. I wouldn't recommend that. So where would you find information on historical? That's the trouble if it's historical when there's a claiming rent. Rental market data, would you find it from REINZ? Yes, I think so. Would it be tenancy? Government? The site I just showed you?
Yeah.
Statistics New Zealand Community Profile Report? Or mb.government.nz? Whoops. So they're only allowing you to see one, are they?
Looks like it.
But, oh. Okay, so what's...
MB. MB's correct.
All right, sorry. Crazy, but I just looked up anyway. Now we get on to the format of the report. I think you guys should all have better formatted reports than what they're going to offer here. Property management companies will most likely have a policy regarding how information on a rental appraisal is communicated to the prospective landlord. There may also be a standard format or template for the document outlining the rental appraisal in writing. It is often in the form of a letter, but also in a short report. So the format of the report covers covering letter, main body of report, appendices, any calculations and working, and field notes. The only word I've got for that is really. Sections 1, 2, 3 should be provided to the client. Sections 4 and 5 should be retained for peer review or confirmation processes in an agency, and for you as a property manager as a refresher and reminder of the appraised property when discussing it with prospective purchasers. Okay, covering letter. This is attached to the body of the report and should be include enough information to give the client an instant idea about the property and its rental value without having to make a detailed inspection of the report. And then there's the main body of the report, which contains description and conclusions reached. There's the appendices, which they cover information you feel the client would wish to see. Then there's the working section, which contain all information that a reviewer would have a look at if you're getting it peer reviewed. Sounds as if it's a some sort of a education paper or something that's got to be. And these are notes you take while inspecting the property and the rental yield. So how many people put rental yields on their appraisal reports? It's a show of hands.
Mhm.
No. But to calculate the rental yield, first you need these three figures. You need the average weekly rental price for the property, the number of weeks per year, and the property's value. So who's got a calculator handy?
Jen.
See how good you are? What I want you to do is I want you to, first you do is you multiply the weekly rent by the number of weeks. So say the rent's 500, multiply it by 52, and it'll give you the revenue coming into the property.
26 grand.
Right, now while you've got that figure there, divide it by the total revenue of the property's value. Say the property is worth 500,000.
Oh, hang on, 5.2%, I think.
5.2, did anyone get anything different?
Well, I got 52, but I put $500 instead of 500,000. So I'm picking it's 5.2.
Okay, all right, no, that's good. So here's an example here, $700 weekly rent, 52 weeks of the year, 36,400. You divide that by the value or the value of the property, and it comes to a 3.64% yield. All right, so now we're going to match the description to the section report. So a covering letter. What's the covering letter? Contains a description of the property and the conclusions reached.
Yeah.
Okay. Then the main body of it.
Third one down includes information.
This one here.
Yeah.
Oh, good. And appendices.
Additional statistical data.
Okay. Calculations and workings.
Yeah, the one that's opposite.
And field notes,
Yeah.
information not intended for the prospective.
Yep.
That's quite comprehensive, isn't it?
Mm.
And we're wrong. We've got the other one way around. Includes information.
Oops.
This is to give an
Oh,
instant
yeah.
idea.
It's
So
true.
but otherwise,
Yes.
very, very good. And is this relevant? Not really. Now, it says here the average fee property managers charge in New Zealand fall within the price range of 7.5 to 8.5% of the rent received. Is that true or not true?
Not true.
Not true.
No, but again, that's what they're saying. And they're using a tenancy services information which says that's the correct. But again, even if that was the management fee, it doesn't take into account other charges like inspections, finding a replacement tenant, all those sorts of things. But I'm finding all this is so far out. But again, for the purposes of the course, that's what they've got. Right, so sample rental appraisal letter. Please remember of all those things that they talked about, all the appendices and all those sorts of things. Because here it comes, this is the letter that they're suggesting here. No color in it, no logos in it, it's all very generic. But they say the rental appraisal and what it includes in the property, minor dwelling, and it's presented in good condition, and they reckon that the main dwelling is 450 to 550, and a minor dwelling on the property is 160 to 185. The short street, long road. Oh, they've gone into great depth about their similar properties in the area. And this is probably the best part of the whole report. This rental assessment does not purport to be a registered valuation. It should be noted that rental values may change as the market conditions fluctuate. Always have a disclaimer.
Mm.
Mhm.
Okay. And here's the sample appraisal letter here, which you can actually open. It's in Word if you want to copy it and use it. I can see you're all rushing to do this, dated 2012. So yeah,
Do you have to put the detail in there of like what they're saying
I
about?
don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say we don't do that either.
What you'll find in your assignment is what they'll do is they'll ask you to do one that's been done in your business.
Okay, but even if it doesn't meet their criteria of what should be done, like that
Well,
detail.
they're saying this is an example of what could be done to actually give it a picture of it. With today's technology, you might want to go into Trade Me and just get a link to that property, but
Mm.
I don't go into that fully into that level of detail. No.
I mean, if the owner asks me like, you know, what other properties were you looking at, then I would send him the links of similar ones in the area, but they never do.
Right.
Mm.
When I have a face-to-face meeting with the owner and talking about rent, I found it very handy. You might use this, and might be something you can put up your sleeve, but I actually go to the relevant sources like Trade Me, and I actually print off 5 of the most relevant properties. All right. Then I sit in front of them and I say, would you like to put those in the order from the one that's actually the worst one to the better one? And we put them in there, and then we say, well, where does your property fit? And they're usually spot on. So you can do this as a report, but at the end of the day, I shouldn't be saying this, but as long as the owner wants to list with you and they actually are happy with your service and the service you provide, I don't make it all about the appraisal, because if you do that, what tends to happen is that you're tempted to actually put a really good rental market on that's above market conditions to win the property. And business and BDAs, that's where the trap they fall into. So one of the things that I do is I go in there and saying, look, you might get different appraisals. At the end of the day, hand on heart, somewhere, I will tell you within $30 to $50 what I believe that property will rent for. That doesn't mean to say that we can't put it up for more than that when we advertise it, but I want you to base your decision on renting this property on information that I'm willing to, support and put my. So, yeah, so that's what I say, and it works 100% because it just takes the pressure off thinking that you've got to come up with a perfect appraisal to actually win the business. I do use a shorter version of this when I do rent reviews. I find it takes away the sting from tenants questioning your rent review and the rent increase. I usually give them a shortened version without all the management fees and that sort of thing, so that they can actually see comparable properties, so they're less likely to have a hissy fit because they can see that actually comparable properties, they fit in that range. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I just found it's over the long run that it works well. Right. If you're new to property management industry, it's recommended that any rental appraisals you undertake in the first 12 months are reviewed by a suitably experienced person. Right. Now we go back to legislation. If the tenant believes that the market rent is excessive, they may apply to the Tenancy Tribunal for a rent assessment if the tribunal finds the order is too high. So here they are, they're just going to repeat themselves again.
Mm.
Market rent, again, we've sort of, but what they're doing now is they're trying to bring in the Fair Trading Act. Now, I understand that if you actually advertise under the Fair Trading Act and put a price in, if it's not a fair price or a market value, I can understand that a tenant could possibly take you to court under the Fair Trading Act, but the chances of that, I've never heard of it yet. They also bring in a big section about the Consumer Guarantees Act. However, I put it to you that this is not used by tenants. It's actually used by owners on whether you actually meet your requirements as a property manager and fulfilled the duties that you've signed in the management agreement. I don't believe personally it's got anything to do with tenants. But in saying that, I've got to show it to you because they've included it in the course. So under the Consumer Guarantees Act, there's 4 sections. Section 28 covers the service will be carried out with reasonable skill and care. So again, I ask you, what's that got to do with tenants? Section 29 guarantees the service is fit for a particular purpose. Section 30, please note this one, it guarantees that the service will be completed within a reasonable time if the time for completion is not fixed by another method, such as by contract. So do you think, how would this work for a tenant? And Section 31 guarantees that the reasonable price will be charged for that service, again, if the price is not fixed by another method. So again, maybe they're trying to say that under the Consumer Guarantees Act, this is this, but this is actually more contracts with contractors. Or your management agreement. So Section 28 guarantees that the service will be supplied to the consumer with reasonable skill. It talks about whether a real estate personnel have acted with the required skill and care. A breach of the guarantee under this act could have the requiring the problem to be remedied, paying for it to be remedied, cancelling the contract of service, or containing compensation. So here is a lady, and Samantha, and she is a tenant of one of the properties you look after under the Consumer Guarantees Act. You have recently organised a builder to fix water tightness of the property she's renting. So again, I would ask, well, what's this got to do with her? Other than the fact is any inconvenience or something like that. And so we push continue. And it says the contractor was supposed to complete this work by September. It's now November and there is no sign of the work being complete. What section of the Consumer Guarantees Act is affected?
Reasonable time frame. What was that one? Can't remember which section.
Which one did I say take a note of?
30.
What was it? We'll try 30, shall we? Section 30 guarantees that the service will be completed in a reasonable time if the time for completion is not fixed by another method, such as by contract. Oh, scenario end. That's it, ladies and gentlemen, or ladies.
Woohoo.
Oh, what happened to gentlemen? I don't see him anymore.
No, neither do I. Maybe they just rely on the actual video. But that's the course. We'll now go and try and see if we can answer any of their questions. Hold on, how do I shrink this?
You got to go back to click on the number US 2774.
Oh, okay. So that's the quicker way, is it? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, might have been too far. Oh no, that's right. Yeah. Scroll down. Scroll down.
Yep.
There we go. Knowledge
There we
check.
go. So the knowledge check. All right. In a residential appraisal report, what does the financial term rental yield mean? The amount of interest a property increases by each year. The yearly revenue a rental property generates calculated as a percentage. It is the total profit made from the rental property in the first year, or is the difference between a weekly mortgage cost?
Second one.
Second one.
Okay. Now that figure that I got you to calculate, what was it again?
3.67, I think, wasn't it?
Oh, I thought it was.
Oh, sorry, that was
it was
the
five.
that was the example. Sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, I thought.
so what was it? 5 point.
Hang on. I think it was 5.43. Hang on. Yeah. Oh, no, hang on. I didn't even get that. 450.
Oh, it's
20. Oh, hang on. You gave us a different amount.
did I?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I was being so smart. 450 multiplied by 52 weeks is 23,400 divided by 500.
It's
1, 2, 3.
It's 4.68. Yeah.
Okay. Never mind.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah.
In a residential appraisal report, see, the thing is that return, if you're a salesperson, I could understand it. But if you're a property manager, in a real estate appraisal report, does the financial term management fee mean the amount of money a property management company charges to manage the property?
Yeah, that one.
All right. Take your word for it. What do property managers usually charge as a management fee? 15 to 25%, 10 to 15%, or 7.5 to 8.5?
Yeah, that one.
Other one. I reckon we should be charging 10 to 15%.
Well, yeah.
For the work.
What can a tenant legally do if they believe their rental appraisal is priced excessively high for the market they're living in?
Second one, tenancy tribunal.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what can a tenant legally do if they believe their rental appraisal is excessively high on what they're living in? Isn't this the same question?
Yeah, I was just going to say, did I? Okay, first one.
All right. Submit all and finish. So you've taught me now to look for the ticks on the right hand side.
Yeah.
Tick, 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 tick. Oh, what a wonderful class.
Is that question the same? It's 5 and 6. Were they the same question?
Oh.
Okay.
What can a tenant legally do if they believe their rental appraisal is priced excessively high for the market they're living in? What can a tenant legally do if they believe their tenant rate is priced? Exactly the same question, but they've just changed the answers around.
Okay.
It's
Cool.
brilliant, isn't it? It's very, very clever.
Awesome.
All right, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank
I think I've got
you.
one more in October. Otherwise, yeah, to look forward
Thanks
to.
very much, David. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Okay, I'll catch you later. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
See you all.
Bye.